Everyone's asking if we're in an AI bubble, right? We're all watching the benchmarks, the massive funding rounds, maybe even NVIDIA's stock price. But what if the biggest threat isn't a bad demo or a disappointing IPO? What if it's a war? And what if I told you it has already hit a data center?
Okay, so let's get right into it. The big question on everyone's mind, is this incredible AI boom about to burst? Well, here's the thing. I think most people are looking in the completely wrong place. The real story, the real risk, it isn't just in the software. It's happening in the physical world.
And that brings us to the absolute core of this explainer. The single biggest, most overlooked risk to the entire AI ecosystem today is geopolitical. It's the conflict simmering between Iran, the US, and Israel, and it is quietly stress testing every single layer of the AI stack.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the moment this war made direct, physical contact with AI infrastructure. Then we'll zoom out to the attacks on supply chains, the economic shockwave that followed, and the shaky foundations inside the AI bubble itself. And finally, we'll connect all the dots to show you exactly how this thing could pop and what you should be thinking about right now.
You know, for a while, this was all just a theoretical risk, but it's not anymore. This is the story of how a regional conflict became a huge global problem for tech and proved that cloud infrastructure is now officially a military target.
I mean, you really can't overstate how big a deal this is. In early March 2026, we saw drone strikes physically damage AWS data centers in the UAE and Bahrain. And let me be perfectly clear. We are talking about actual structural and power damage. This wasn't a cyber attack. This wasn't a software glitch. This was a physical military strike, bombs hitting buildings on major US cloud infrastructure. That has literally never happened before.
And this just highlights a whole new reality. The UAE wasn't just some random spot. Tech giants were pouring money in to make it a key hub for AI compute, getting ready to install the most advanced NVIDIA chips. So, overnight, a region that was supposed to be a safe bet for the future of AI became an active conflict zone. And that introduces a brand new kind of risk that almost no one had factored into their models.
But look, the data centers were just the first domino to fall. The problem gets way bigger, really fast, affecting AI's entire physical supply chain. Because AI isn't just lines of code. It's thousands of tons of hardware that have to get shipped across oceans. And right now, those oceans are in chaos. By mid-February 2024, shipping traffic through the critical Suez Canal had just collapsed. It plummeted by 82%. That forced all those container ships, the ones carrying everything from server racks to GPUs, to take the super long, super expensive route around Africa.
And the immediate result of that? A massive spike in costs. Freight rates on key routes, like from Shanghai over to Europe, jumped by over 250%. Now, if you're building a data center or trying to scale up an AI training cluster, this isn't some abstract number. This means your GPU delivery is late, and your budget just got completely torched by shipping costs you never saw coming.
And believe it or not, it goes even deeper than shipping containers. There's a hidden bottleneck here that almost nobody is talking about. Helium. Yeah, helium. Qatar supplies about a third of the entire world's supply, and it is absolutely essential for making the advanced semiconductor chips that power AI. There is no substitute. With attacks threatening Qatar's infrastructure, any disruption to helium could slow down GPU production, making already scarce compute even harder to get your hands on.
So, these physical shocks, they don't just stay physical. They create this powerful economic shockwave that ripples all the way from the shipping port to the stock market, and it hits high-growth tech valuations especially hard. Let's call this AI's macro kill switch. Here's how it works. First, the war disrupts the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point for about 20% of global oil and gas. That energy price spike fuels inflation. So, what do central banks do? They keep interest rates high. And that just mechanically crushes the valuation of companies built on future growth, like AI startups. Basically, when it's expensive to borrow money, investors get a lot less excited about paying a premium for profits that are years away. It doesn't matter how great your model is if the basic math of your business plan suddenly stops working.
And this shock isn't just about commodities, it's about people. Israel is a global powerhouse for AI and R&D, but the war created a huge labor shock. In late 2023, 7% of the tech workforce, and 60% of them were in R&D, got called up for reserve duty. On top of that, over 8,000 more just relocated permanently. This kind of instability causes funding to dry up, leading to a much more concentrated market where fewer investors are making fewer but bigger bets. So all of this brings us to the state of the AI market itself. And let's be really clear, the technology is real, the breakthroughs are real.
But a bubble forms when prices and valuations get way ahead of the system's ability to handle risk. And right now, the way AI is funded makes it incredibly vulnerable to all these external shocks. I mean, just look at this. In 2025, AI firms pulled in a staggering 61% of all global venture capital. That is over $250 billion flowing into one single sector. That kind of extreme focus creates a ton of systemic risk. If one part of this ecosystem gets sick, everybody's going to feel it.
And this slide tells a fascinating story. In the US, AI made up nearly 2/3 of all venture value, but only about 1/3 of the actual deal count. You see the gap? This is what a top-heavy market looks like. A tiny number of gigantic mega deals are setting the tone for everyone else, which makes for a pretty fragile foundation.
And to make all this worse, there's a missing exit valve. The IPO market, the way companies usually cash out, has been basically shot for years, and all this instability isn't helping. So, without a clear path to go public, these massively valued companies are trapped. They can't deliver returns, which puts immense pressure on the entire system.
Okay, so we've seen the direct military strike, the supply chain mess, the economic fallout, and the fragility of the market. So let's put it all together and walk through the 4-step chain reaction that could actually pop this bubble.
Here's how it could play out. Step 1 is the operational shock, like the AWS data center strike. That triggers Step 2, the macro shock, as energy prices and inflation push interest rates up. Then comes Step 3, the liquidity shock, as the IPO window slams shut and all that late-stage money vanishes. And finally, all of this leads to Step 4, the valuation shock. That's when down rounds become the norm, and the big, exciting story that justified those crazy valuations starts to crack. The war is making Steps 1 and 2 happen at the same time, which makes the final steps almost inevitable.
And there's one more thing that could throw gasoline on this whole fire, a cyber wildcard. Beyond the physical conflict, there's a growing threat of really sophisticated cyber attacks, like hack and leak operations, which are designed specifically to destroy trust.
And this isn't some far-off threat. We're already seeing it. The U.S. Treasury is sanctioning Iranian-linked cyber groups, and Microsoft has confirmed that these groups are using LLMs for things like phishing attacks. The real danger here is that one major, very public incident involving AI could shatter public trust almost overnight. And that kind of shift in sentiment would probably trigger a massive regulatory crackdown, delivering yet another shock to the system.
All right, I know that was a lot to take in, and it's a pretty intense picture. But the point here isn't to be pessimistic, it's to be prepared. So let's talk about what's actually actionable, whether you're a founder, an investor, or just trying to make sense of this crazy new risk landscape. Okay, for founders, you have to start treating your cloud compute like a physical supply chain, because it is. Build in resilience and give yourself more financial runway. For investors, it's time to get real about a world with very few IPOs and start pricing this geopolitical risk into your models. And for the rest of us just watching this all unfold, keep your eye on the key indicators: VC concentration, energy prices, and how bad the shipping disruptions are getting. When those all start moving in the wrong direction at once, a correction is getting much, much closer.
And really, that brings us to the bottom line. This war doesn't need to destroy AI to pop the current bubble. It just needs to keep making 3 things happen: make compute more scarce, make capital more expensive, and make geopolitical risk impossible to ignore. Right now, it's doing all 3. So the real question you should be asking yourself is, are you prepared for that?